Okay, so I think we should be recording now. And so again, thank you everybody for joining. And our goal today is to start the conversation of how we can standardize the setup for when we start a new program to get their ChildPlus set up the way that we want it to in the first place. And then once we kind of know what our ideal situation is, I think that we can see if we can tweak any currently used instances of ChildPlus to match it as best possible. So that's something that we'll start to think about. But the areas I wanted to highlight today and just talk about them for a few minutes are some areas where I think that we can all in our teams or individually contribute information about. Here in initial setup, requirements are two areas that I think that we'll want to look at and kind of, if possible, have our standard event types. So that was one area that I think that we should be focused on. And another area is in the optional setup. Does anybody know if we use family outcomes?
I think we do. I don't know if they're using it in ChildPlus though.
Yeah. I compare, Christy, for the programs that I use, we are still using the CDI paper tools to capture outcomes on the Family Needs Assessment and the Family Services tab. Some of the feedback that I have heard, in particular, you may want to follow up with Catherine Bell and Joyce Fry, is that the needs outcome, the family outcomes instrument that is in ChildPlus does not fit the needs of what of where they want to go. And again, I'm paraphrasing what we have discussed prior to, but apparently, I believe this can be customized, and they're just not sure of how. But they're not using it. It's not being utilized across the board. And one of the reasons, like I said, please follow up with Catherine Bell and Joyce Fry, because this is the conversation I had with them, is that it needed to be customized to fit the needs of the program specifically.
Okay, the outcomes need to be customized to fit the program.
Mm-hmm. So we're still using the paper needs assessment that captures this and the family FPA.
I will follow up with them because I think that can be part of our conversation here, but it doesn't need to hinder our other work. So thank you for pointing me in the right direction on that one. And then one of the other optional things, and the optional setup, sorry, it's not an optional thing, just in the optional setup, is the customized drop-down choices. This is another area where I feel like we can work a little bit on standardization to make sure that we're using similar things across the board. So thinking about attendance is one. Let me see. Language might be another. Yeah, so languages, attendance. Are there any other drop downs that you guys are aware of that kind of vary by program that we could take a look at as a group?
I've never seen that drop-down list. I think looking through that would help trigger if something was used.
Okay, great. One of the other action items after this is I'm going to figure out, we're currently looking at the kind of a mock-up site. It's just called CDI headquarters. It's kind of like a play environment where we can make changes and it doesn't hurt any program. So maybe we can have a login where we can all go into this and take a look without being worried about messing anything up for any program. So I'll see if I can get everybody access to that, which could help us just be able to look at that list and click around to see if there are any other areas for opportunity. Christy, like I mentioned, we had talked about can we give some more options other than other and race, and there's no ability to have this green add a choice button, so the list is the list, and I think that's for PIR reasons. But that was too bad when I saw that. So okay, so those were kind of some of the main areas I thought we should focus on in terms of setup. And my other area for exploration on this is to gather information from everybody on what reports they use and run for programs, because I think that there are probably multiple ways to pull the same or similar information, and coming up with kind of our recommended list of reports and how to pull them would help us all make sure that we're looking at the information in the same way, both within a program and then across programs. And so I think for homework, it would be helpful if everybody could list out which reports that they rely on kind of on a regular basis. And then also if they have any gaps in what they want to see but haven't been able to figure out how to see it. So that's an area where I'm going to ask for people to send in their information of what reports they use. Great. So while we have some of us on the call, those thinking about standardizing the health and education events areas and requirements, those drop-down choices, and then also the list of reports were some of the initial action items I had. Does anybody else have some ideas of other setup or customization pieces that they're aware of that are pretty different across programs or other areas within ChildPlus that we should be looking at as a team to make sure that we're using it in a standard way across maybe ourselves or across programs?
That health event one is the big one that I see.
Great. Okay. So the health event is the big one, and that would be for the health team to propose, and then maybe everyone else to take a look at and comment on. Would you say that's true?
Okay, Sarah, just to be clear, can I recap what you stated, what you asked us to do for action items?
Yes, definitely, and
okay.
I'll type it up by email as well.
Okay, you want us to compile a list of reports that we most frequently use to pull data for our areas, correct? Or any other areas we may be using?
Yep.
Okay, and also, now I do have access to some of the ChildPlus programs that I am responsible for, and they have a training module where you can go in and it won't affect the live data. So that's an option for us until we get access to the CDI headquarters. You can kind of play around in it and it won't do anything with the live data.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll ask Tom if we should use that training platform, the training module, or if we should access the CDI headquarters. We'll defer to him on
okay.
Which is a bit.
Sure.
Okay, so our three action items will be to compile the list of reports that we use on a general basis, come up with a universal list of health events that we would want to see in here, and then everybody get into a test site to look at those drop-down choices to see if there are any customizations that we might want to make. So those are kind of our three things, and then we will try to reconvene, hopefully with a bigger group next time, to think through if there are other areas that we need to identify within the platform that we missed on this initial call, just having a smaller group of us. Does anybody have any other comments or questions? I feel like we have some areas for opportunity and can start to gather some information, then really dive into some of the details the next time.
Sarah, what is our time frame to have this back to you? I just want to put it into perspective and put it on my calendar.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it kind of depends on your guys' current workload. I know a lot of people are at startups and things like that. So, you know, I don't want to push this out too far, but I want to give you guys enough time. So I was thinking 1 or 2 weeks. Does that feel reasonable?
Yes. Oh, well, I will say yes for me, but I will get the consensus from everybody.
Okay.
I'll say yes for me. The workload never decreases, so it doesn't.
Right. You just got to get her done. Right, Chrissy?
Find a time. So probably it'll just depend on, I'll look at everybody's calendars and pick another meeting time, and that will be our due date. So hopefully, if it's not next week, it'll be early the week after. So either 7 to 10 days is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
All right, sounds good.
Cool.
So we will email you, if we get it ahead of time, just email everything that we have to you and go from there, correct?
Yep. So I'll specify by email. Hopefully we can get people to email me stuff the day before, and I can kind of compile it before our next call. I think will be a good plan.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
That's good.
Great, thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Sarah.
Well, thanks everybody for joining, and I will follow up by email. So
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. You guys have a great weekend.
You guys too.
You too.